Here come on, Harry. I'm gonna bring on Harry Halpin. I don't know if maybe you've never heard of Harry Halpin.
Pretty mysterious guy.
You have to go like, I'm talking into the mic like
I'm
this.
a pretty mysterious guy.
Yeah, he's a pretty mysterious guy. So we're gonna just give, what do we got, like 20 minutes, 15 minutes? Okay, just give me like a sign if it's getting close. Okay, great. Studio audience.
Okay,
so just tell us the short version. What were you doing recently? What organization were you part of before you were doing crypto recently?
Well, actually, I want to reveal a small secret.
Uh-oh.
Me and you have been trying to destroy the world financial system for a very long time.
No.
10 years ago.
Now it's on. Now it's over 10 years ago.
I haven't seen you in maybe 15 years.
So I think the last time that me and Harry were talking, I think that you were meeting someone in the Chapel Hill Conspiracy Bookstore. What's the name of it?
Yeah,
International
we were planning protest against the International Monetary Fund, and there was a lot of broken windows and whatnot.
No.
But we were not.
Yeah,
I have to admit, we were very unsuccessful in destroring the global financial system.
Yeah, well, that was back then, but
back
that was
in the day. We've become more sophisticated.
Yeah, but I remember I was like really critical, getting really tired of some of the anti-globalist protest topics and the style, and you were meeting a guy there, and we were just discussing that kind of stuff. And you lived in a small cabin in the forest, trying to be.
I was trying to be autonomous.
Trying to be autonomous, and other experiments like that. So that's to make a long story short.
I mean,
right?
What I was about to say.
And I think you were doing like weird search algorithm research back then at Duke, right?
Yeah, I was doing search algorithm research. So just briefly, I'm a researcher. PhD in computer science. I helped work on the Web Crypto API, which is the API that unites the various crypto libraries across all at MIT. And then when my boss, Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the web, wanted to push digital rights management into browsers, DRM, I said, screw this, and I quit. And now I work on mostly secure messaging and crypto.
Okay, great.
And I think what I've learned, when we were very young, we thought that something as simple as protest, as simple as telling people about how corrupt and opaque the global financial system was, that this would be enough, that somehow we could protest our way to victory. Yeah. But actually, I think the
be the vanguard.
Yeah, exactly. And we were totally, it looked like for a bit it was working.
Right.
However, what we find 10 years later, 15 years later, that what people want is they don't want another protest. What people want is working solutions. They want working technology. They want to be able, you can't say, oh, don't use a bank account, you'll just be broke and you'll starve in the streets. But what you need is you need an alternative that isn't centralized, that isn't controlled by portions of the corrupt capitalist global financial system. So what I've become very excited by is I feel that finally we're actually producing real technology that can answer real human needs. And then once this technology, because we all know the nation state is headed towards collapse. It's a total mess. You have Trump in the US, just morons everywhere running nation states and banks. I mean, really remarkably dumb people. And then I go to this conference, this hacker conference, and I see all these intelligent people thinking about technology, thinking about, well, how can we make NDSA hierarchical, and this, new techniques on elliptic curves, new techniques in post-quantum. There's all this excitement. And I feel like, crypto wasn't moving for like years. When I was working on crypto research and search algorithm research, we were still using stuff, everything was like 90s. Our job was just trying to put technology from the 90s, in people's hands. And now I feel like it's gaining mass appeal, and because it's getting mass appeal, all these intelligent hackers who are trying to build new things. And I've actually, weirdly enough, I hated Ethereum. Because let me just be very clear.
I want to just, anyone can, just to fun, I have a mic too, it's okay.
Okay.
Because you can, I don't know, I mean, you do tweets sometimes, but if you just like do like a year old,
it's pretty negative.
There were some that had points. It was something like, if all the people that work at W3C would work on A, B, C, and not blockchain projects, then we'd actually have some progress. Or like, I don't remember, there was some other comments like about that.
No,
like,
my main concern was that...
And also, yeah, negative about Bitcoin, negative about Ethereum, or just skeptical.
I was
which
very
is okay.
skeptical,
yeah.
and I blame Ben Laurie if you're watching. It's your fault I was so skeptical.
Okay.
But I felt that the problem I saw with Ethereum and a lot of Bitcoin was the problem that the community has recognized, which is scalability, right? So, we've been studying, I know it's boring and a bit wizard hatty, but we've been studying, distributed systems for a very long time, and we could easily predict there's going to be scalability issues with Bitcoin, and God help you, Ethereum. I got the Ethereum paper for Solidity. I said, oh look, it looks like a programming language theory paper. There's these symbols, they're kind of like in the right place, but dear God, it doesn't make sense. And then when you look at the EVM, you're like, dear God, it's easy to bust out of. Like, this is terrible. But then what we underestimated is that the people really want something like this. The community of people want to be able to have trustless, decentralized computing. And I said, why would you want that? It's everything we know about the cloud, but backwards. All your computations will be slow. What's the point? But then, what made me very excited was actually ICOs. I looked at ICOs and said, well, that, because I've been working in Silicon Valley. I work for fucking Yahoo, like the worst company on the planet. No, let me just.
No, it was cool. We discussed it yesterday because so I just want to because everybody well, not everybody. I think like a lot of people that come on World Crypto Network are very critical of ICOs, and that's totally legit. I think there's a wide spectrum.
I think they're great now. I've changed my mind.
It's a total. But it's a wide spectrum. I mean, there's some that are obviously very never going to deliver on what they say, and I don't know, don't have any kind of merit at all. And then there's some that have potential. And it's just like with startups, there's going to be a low success rate, and people need to keep that in mind too. But we were talking about how that you wanted to raise. I think that what it was is you wanted to raise VC money. You tried that, and you were like, fuck this, I'm just going to do ICO, because these guys are fucking assholes.
Well, no, what I realized is that democratizing investment through ICOs makes much more sense than having to, fly to San Fran and, basically suck the cocks of, random VCs and angels. Oh, look at my pitch deck. Oh, please, why don't you give me some of your money, rich person? And then they hand you this, term sheet, which essentially is legal malware. It's just even if you accept their money, they're going to take your company from you. It's a terrible idea. I don't know why. And of course, it kills innovation. You can't build anything interesting when you're controlled by a small oligarchy of investors. So I actually think that the ICOs are a great idea. I haven't done one. I'm an American. It's a little bit dangerous as an American. But what I'm encouraging people, and what I think we can do to correct the problems with Ethereum and Bitcoin, is you remember there's this whole other branch of cypherpunks, right? People who are working on blinded signatures, mixed networking, secure messaging. Look at Signal and Moxie. Look at Tor. Look at all these projects. They're all dying. They have no financing. No one's helping them. They exist on shitty contracts for nonprofit groups or doing weird work for companies. It's not cool.
Right.
And so it's true. Tor takes U.S. government funding, right? But I don't think I know Roger. I don't think they take it because they like it, because they want to get in bed with the State Department. No one wants to get in bed with the State Department. It's a bad idea unless you're a friggin' spy. But what you need money from the crowd. And I think ICOs could really help privacy-enhancing technology.
Do you think that Tor should ICO?
Oh, if I were them, yeah, totally. I'm not part of Tor, but if anyone's watching.
How would that work? I mean, I get.
They'd have to. You could do something. There's a coin. It's even published. It was published before Bitcoin. This idea of incentivizing the relays. Now the problem is that they felt this might disrupt the network somehow. But I still think it's an idea they should actually take quite seriously. And let me tell you something else which got me very excited about ICOs. Was Amir Taki. Right? So last time I saw Amir, he was living in some random squad in Spain, hanging out, working on dark wall. I wanted to talk to him because privacy is pretty difficult. We should look at your code really carefully. And then he's like, I'm going to go to Syria. Oh, you're not going to go to Syria. And he, but he did. And then he comes back, and it's true. He was doing really excellent work there on technology, trying to understand how we can deploy decentralized technology to create a whole decentralized society that's literally fighting ISIS, and they want this kind of technology. but they need help from the larger community. They don't have any money, right? You can't even fly into Rojava, right? The borders are closed. Money transfers can basically only be done via Bitcoin. Money is still controlled by Assad, the Syrian lira, which is being hyperinflated in an attempt to disrupt the revolution there. And so I said, Amir, what you really should do is you should raise money. All of a sudden, all these people who are kind of, working on the code you've been working for, you should raise money and go build this new kind of technology. Imagine a nation of 5 million people where the default currency is a cryptocurrency, where it's not controlled by a nation state. 5 million, I mean, that's a big change. And then you can see as other nations collapse, maybe other countries, other regions, other revolutionary movements would do this. But what Amir said, which is quite interesting, which is why I recommend people look at the talk yesterday, is Amir said, the technology comes second. What needs to come first is the political understanding, the historical understanding, the philosophical understanding. Because otherwise, we'll all just end up working for banks or who knows.
Right. So that's what a lot of the talk yesterday from Amir and you gave was about. There was a lot of history about, well, actually just about computers in general is what it started with, and about crypto and how it all came about and history and the different ideological influences about computers and software that have come about and what different directions there are. And so what do you see besides just ICO disrupting things and things like that? I mean, do you see here at the conference or at other parts of Bitcoin the different ideologies, and do you see them conflicting, or what have you seen so far? Oh,
I'm super excited because I think actually what's happening is everyone's very old-fashioned. You have old-fashioned cypherpunks like myself who just really want mixed networking and no metadata. You have classical anarchists from like left-wing, sort of confused concepts of socialism which didn't work out very well in practice.
Right.
You have anarcho-capitalists who really, sometimes they fantasize about the market, but the market is usually backed up by the violence of the state. But what you're seeing is because of the technology, people are converging, becoming more practical. Looking at practical problems, not having stupid ideological debates, but trying to understand their history, the kind of society they want. And the point of the talk by Amir, which I think was a very good point, is that essentially there's a basic conflict in computing. It's a conflict between using computing to centralize power, to control humanity, to enslave people. And everyone from anarcho-capitalists to insurrectionary primitivists agree that this is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? In fact,
even they agree. Even the insurrectionary anarchist primitives
agree. And even most startup people, they don't want to be controlled by VCs or angel investments. Like, everyone understands that control destroys innovation and human potential and creativity. And those are but there's an alternative stream of computing history through Ada Lovelace, Lewis Mumford, and into the future, which is about liberating humanity, providing humanity tools. And so I think what the great thing about Bitcoin is it recognized one of the central problems was the banks and created a tool to overcome that. But what is the other things that we need, right? Secure messaging. Signal's great, but it's centralized. Mox gets hit by a car, whole thing falls apart. Tor is great, but the metadata protection sucks. You can still do correlation attacks. Why can we build an anonymous overlay without that? There's a lot of things to build.
Okay.
And the blockchain's been useful all across the board.
Okay, definitely. We
Sorry,
have
that was a bit of a rant.
No, that's okay. That's okay, Harry. You're allowed to rant on World Crypto Network.
Quick and ranty.
It's okay. That's good. You'll perfect that. You're on the way. So you're without your hat from yesterday, but we do have. No, it's okay. We have this interesting discussion in the chat. I just want to cover. No, it just said that you wouldn't last a winter in the forest.
Ha ha ha!
So I just want to.
I lived in the forest for 2 years.
That's why I wanted to
in northern Scotland and survived the winter. There's a video somewhere on YouTube.
And I don't know what you were living in
cold,
Scotland,
man.
but you were also in
in
North Carolina in the winter too.
Yeah, I survived several winters. Actually.
Yeah, and that was pretty much in the forest. No, don't worry about all the.
No. I love the hate.
No. It's okay. I'm just looking for the highlights. That's all. So the other highlight is that you're Harry Potter, but I guess you get that a lot because you're Harry.
That's the best way to put my name.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's okay. But that was just an interesting one about that. And
any actual questions?
No, not so far. It's just mostly no so far. But guys, if you do have a question,
actual
question, or I don't know, whatever, you can do it. We're getting.
I mean,
how much time do we have left before we're gonna cut?
You can spend all of your time trolling an IRC.
All right, so
however, you could also do something which might actually have an impact. That'd be more interesting, wouldn't it?
We could just talk on live stream all day.
Yeah, we could just
you
gotta communicate.
No, I know. I'm just
even
joking. Hey, we're making content. That's something. Okay, so, what do you think about so-called Bitcoin maximalists versus some of the network effect away from Bitcoin? Does that matter? I mean, yesterday in the discussion that came up at the end, Amir, and he said, Bitcoin has so much capital behind it and so much minds behind it that that's for now that's it basically, and we don't need to make a whole bunch of separate things, and but that might not be the end all to it either. We just don't know now. So what do you think about all the altcoin, all the token? We have if you make an ICO, then you're going to have to make a token, which is riding on top of another currency, probably not Bitcoin. It's too expensive to do it practically, and you're essentially making another currency in itself. Do you think that takes away, or do you think that kind of adds to just the crypto network effect?
Well, I would say if your job is, so you got to look at what the technology is, right? So Bitcoin essentially is a deflationary reserve currency. The thing about Bitcoin.
Well, just that's the thing. That's the discussion. Is it that, or is it something to buy coffee with?
Well, I hope it's a deflationary reserve currency. I mean, you can buy coffee with it, but and I think it's good that people buy coffee with it. But I think that the real disruptive power of Bitcoin is a lot of the power of the central banking system does come from the fact that the reserves of all nation states are held in dollars. I mean, it's true.
Right, yeah.
And this is a giant amount of power. Now, what might happen, which I think is a huge shift, is you could imagine all the assets of every country in the world moving over into a cryptocurrency. And you want one which is non-inflationary, right? You want a deflationary cryptocurrency. You can imagine Bitcoin, I think it's a likely future trajectory, ending up as a sort of super reserve currency. And as the United States becomes more and more politically unstable, almost guaranteed, that's going to be incredibly attractive, not just to investors, but to sort of entire other countries which are suffering under the sort of global domination of corruption and the banking system. Now, I think what's interesting, though, about Ethereum, that you want something like Bitcoin to be stable. The reserve currency has to be stable. It can't be.
Yeah, but stable in the sense of price, or stable in the sense of being, putting low risk as the paramount before making any adjustments to the code and things like that. You see what I mean?
I tend to agree with the Blockstream and the great debates.
Right, that's the critique you have now is that, okay, we need to scale, or we need to do this, and a lot of the maybe the so-called core supporters are like, okay, ultra conservative about making changes and so on because the network is worth so much. The reasons. You think that has some merit? It's a good argument, or
yeah, I think it's a legitimate argument. But that being said, I don't think that argument means that we should stifle innovation. And I think innovation, and the nice thing about Ethereum, so Ethereum has huge ambitions. Wants to replace Western civilization with essentially a bunch of crappy Python scripts. However, let's be honest, Western civilization is not doing really well right now.
I can do Western civilization in 2 lines of code.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the old meme was Vitalik would go to conferences and he would say, "Oh, I can do Bitcoin in 2 lines of code. I can do this project in 2 lines of code. Any project anyone had or altcoin, to be like, oh, I can do that in 3 lines. Made safe, we got that in five lines. You know what I mean? Something like that. Of course, that's not true.
Speaking of scams, but anyways, what I was going to say is that there is a lot of scammy stuff going on in Ethereum, particularly in the ICO space. But then the great thing about Ethereum is it's fundamentally upgradable, and that's where you want innovation to happen. Innovation on Ethereum right now is probably the place to be in the altcoin space and in the ICO space. And that this space, if this continues to happen, this is actually not a competitor to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is like a stable reserve whose value will just keep going up. But you also have this highly speculative, highly innovative market of essentially Ethereum-based applications and ICOs with all sorts of weird tokens. I'm a privacy guy. I'm like really excited by the stuff like Quorum. How can we use zero-knowledge proofs around Ethereum? How can we do better privacy? Even old-fashioned shit, just like blinded signatures with algebraic max. All sorts of good stuff can happen on top of Ethereum. And I think that's a very exciting moment. And that I hope that that accelerates, and just as Bitcoin accomplishes its original goal of helping unseat fiat currency, you can see all sorts of other kinds of applications being built on top of Ethereum. And I don't think these are necessarily contradictory viewpoints. It's a bit silly to be fighting over this, I think, actually.
Okay. All right, and yeah, it is kind of silly in some ways. Yeah, I don't know. Where can we find information, or what's the name of the project that Amir gave the talk about yesterday? I don't think we didn't even talk about that, and we didn't talk about how you can find out more about it and anything like that.
Yeah, well, I think for Amir, you should just go after his Twitter. He doesn't have a proper website for his project, just amirtalking.org. But I first met that guy, I was always, is this real? But then I heard him talking on the phone in Kurdish with people in Rojava. He put me in touch with people in Rojava calling me, asking me about crypto questions, asking me about programming, asking about currency. That it's real. There's actually people in Syria who are close friends with Amir who want to see this sort of thing happen. And this could be, literally this could be life or death for 5 million people who've just spent the last 5 years fighting ISIS. That's a really exciting thing. And so I think Amir's project is legit. I hope he develops it further. I'm supporting him in doing so. That being said, I think he needs more people. So I think that if you find that prospect interesting, if you want, what would an entire decentralized society look like? You can start in Syria, you can spread to other places. You should just get in touch with Amir. And if you're interested more in, I think, more traditional cypherpunk topics, I'm working on mixed networking, hiding metadata, working on next generation decentralizing signal, decentralized secure messaging. I'm happy to get in touch with me as well. I'm more happy to discuss the slightly more technical topics, but I think having Amir's political vision and connections with Rojava will be a really historical moment in the evolution of cryptocurrencies. Okay,
great. And okay, so how can we get in touch with you?
I'm just at Harry Halpin on Twitter. And I think Amir, it's actually funny, this guy was impersonating Amir on Twitter. I think at Amir Taki says help, and there's like a Bitcoin address. People just ship that address Bitcoin. It's actually some...
There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but there is the actual real Amir Taki Twitter account, which I forget. But just go to amirtaki.org. I think that's him.
Okay, great. I don't know, are we about done?
We've got 2 minutes. So
2 minutes? Okay, we'll wind it down. I want to thank everyone for watching World Crypto Network. Thanks to Crypto... Man, I always mess up the middle letters. Hardware, cryptohwwallet.com. Thanks for, who do we want to give a shout out to from the venue?
I would like to see some masked wrestling next time.
Masked wrestling? Oh yeah.
Crypto
there is another guy,
awesome.
Well, there is another guy with a mask.
But they're not wrestling. I want them oiled up and wrestling.
Whoa, Harry, Harry, did an ICO pre-sale for that event. That is how, so if you get the incentives going, and then what we can do is we can set up some smart contracts for betting on who wins.
And people love to gamble, and gambling on wrestling. Hey, got Trump the presidency of the United States.
Well, of course, with the help of Pepe the Frog. But that if you want to do that, then you need to ICO it, and then it'll get people interested, I think. So we're going to wind up. Thanks everyone for watching. Subscribe, share, etc.
Talk by Adam Beck.
All right. Oh yeah, check it out. Talk by Adam Beck. Coming up on the live stream. Thanks. And we're out. Cut. All right. Thanks, Harry. That was good. Good ranting. We need that. That's okay. Hey, we're live. We're just. I just messaged you. I was like, Harry, do you want to come do an interview? I was like, okay. I didn't have questions. I just thought we.
It's over.